Hi, everyone. First of all, I just want to thank everyone who submitted questions to the survey I sent out over the weekend. I really, really appreciate it. And it was just really a lot of fun seeing questions come in from all over the country. And I loved just the observation of how many themes came up that were similar. People shared so many rich details. And so you guys come from all different kinds of companies, all different faith backgrounds, all over the country. And still, so many very similar themes came up in the survey. So, what I wanted to do was take a few moments here to answer some of the questions. I picked 6 of them, and there were really so very many good ones. But these seem to really cover some themes that a lot of you touched on. So I just wanted to take some time to address those. And I wanted to do it live, but my internet was not working very well. So I'm still in the spirit of improv doing one cut. I'm not going to do any editing to this. But it's not going to be live because the internet was not agreeing with me today. Okay, so first question. What do you do when you know someone doesn't agree, but isn't/won't say anything? Isn't saying anything or won't say anything? So my first question to you about this is, if you're in a situation where you know there is feedback that people want to give you and they're just not giving it to you, first of all, I want to ask, how specific are you being when you are soliciting the feedback? So there's a good chance that what's happening is you're just letting people know that your door is always open, or that they're welcome to give feedback, or you're just relaying new information to them, letting them know that this change is happening, and maybe not even specifically telling them that they can give you feedback. When there is an absence of feedback, but a clear desire for something to be said, it's usually because there's not been enough infrastructure or enough specifics. So what I would do if I were you is send out a preliminary email before you're going to roll out a change, or shortly after one has happened, perhaps in advance of a quarterly review or a one-on-one or some other such planned feedback meeting. And in that email, I would say, thanks so much for your time. As you know, we have our meeting coming up on such and such a date. I would really love to hear from you about how I'm doing in these specific areas. Maybe say, how have I been doing clearly delegating as we've been going through this change? Or how do you feel that communication has been? Or how do you feel that this specific change is rolled out? Whatever it is, be specific. So being specific is so helpful in improv and in life. And secondly, just giving people a clear indication of what you're hoping to hear from them about, and in advance will give them some time to have some talking points ready. So if you're in a room and you can tell someone has something to say, the problem might not be that they're not willing. It might be that they need some time to formulate what they want to say, or they're doing a good job of realizing, I'm angry right now. Now is not the right time for me to try to say this. It's not going to come out right. So they might be policing themselves for a reason that you don't realize, and they're trying to make sure that they give you the feedback that they need to give you in a way that it's receivable, which is great. Second question I would ask you about this is, what's your body language doing when you are soliciting this feedback? So I had an experience with a client years ago who had just given his team of 10-ish people some new information about a project that was coming up, and it was very clear that they were not happy about this. I was in the room and able to witness this happen, actually. He was standing, the rest of the people were sitting, and he could tell, the energy in the room just chilled. Like, he could tell that they were upset. And nobody would be the one. You could have heard a needle drop on the floor, and it was a carpeted room. It was very, very quiet. So he could tell, and so he leans forward onto the table, and he put his hands down on the table, I think louder than he meant to, and was like, if you guys have something to say, please say it. And it was not helpful. Well, let's say it like that. It was not helpful. So sometimes when you can tell that people are not giving you the feedback that they wish that they were giving you, it might be because you're snarling, or it might be because their perception is that you're snarling. So double check how your email sounds, or how your text sounds, or how your Slack message, or just your body language when you're in the room. So again, just making sure that you are in alignment, because the reason that you're behaving in that way, or that your tone is coming across this way, is because you're out of alignment. So when you're coming across in a way that says, tell me what I want to hear, or do this or you're going to get fired, that might not be your intention. But when you're coming across that way, it's because you're frustrated, or you've lost faith in them, or maybe you're feeling insecure and you're just like, please listen to me, or please just do this thing, or you're worried about something. So get into alignment, and that way your body language will reflect the caliber of your intention. Okay, next question. Came from a woman here in Pittsburgh who says, how do you lead those who don't report directly to you? So I thought this was a great question, because leaders are not always the manager or the owner of the company or the person that everybody reports to. If you are a leader at your company and you're trying to figure out how do you lead people and they're not your direct report, my point to you about this is that you're in a great position to be a coach or to be a servant leader. So if you're familiar with servant leadership, then you're familiar with this concept of authority versus power. Power is the ability to say, do this or you're going to be fired. Sometimes things have to resort to that, and it's unfortunate when that happens, because when you assert power like that, you're eroding that relationship. That was one of my favorite takeaways from the book The Servant by James C. Hunter, which I've posted on here about before. So if these people report to someone other than you, you are in a great position to build up authority. So authority is the ability to tap into the why alongside people and motivate them to do the things that you want them to do. Motivate them to do the things that are in service to this project or in service to the company or your clients, because you both share that vision. They want to. So really build up that authority. And how you do that is by tapping into the why and serving them, really looking for ways. You don't have to be the big boss in order to serve people. And when you serve people and you let them know that you care and you want to eliminate barriers between them and performing at the caliber of their potential, you're really building up that trust. And then that will help, what am I trying to say? Contribute to the bank, so that when you need to when you need to withdraw by confrontation, and that is a bigger withdrawal when they don't report directly to you. But you still have the ability to do that. I hope you realize that. Even if someone doesn't report to you, you might not have the ability to say, you're going to get fired or this thing is going to happen. That almost makes it easier. That almost makes it a more healthy conversation when a human and a human can sit down and just talk. You still have the ability to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling in this relationship. This is what I'm seeing and where I'm struggling. This is just my perspective, and I wanted to come to you because I care about this relationship, and I know we both care about serving our clients. So I just wanted to hear from you about what you're perceiving and how I can make this relationship feel better for both of us. And your own words, of course. You are a fantastic improviser and fully capable of saying a thing that is authentic and real and will speak into your situation in an effective way. But that's what I would do in that situation. Okay, so number 3, how do you work with other leaders who don't have a collaborative leadership style? I love this question as well. Okay, so first of all, your perception that the other leaders at your company aren't collaborative might be about the story you're telling yourself and not about a story of how it absolutely is, So, for example, you might be observing these behaviors that are a little bit off-putting. You might be observing these behaviors that feel like people shutting you out or stonewalling you on your efforts to build something. But maybe what feels to you like a no is just a direction that you need to try a different way, or speak the language a little bit differently so they understand what you're trying to help them with or understand what you're trying to say. So one thing that I love about improv, just a second here. One thing that I love about improv is that the onus is on everyone to build something that you're proud of. Even if you're new, even if you're insecure, even if other people have been on the team longer than you, the onus is on everyone to build something that we're proud of. And so, in the midst of an improv show, which all of life is improv, so this applies directly to daily life, there's hustle and bustle and things are happening quickly and change is happening quickly. And it's easy to feel like, if you're having trouble getting out there and getting your ideas out there, it's easy to feel like you need someone to say, hey, what do you think? Hey, come on out here. Come play with us. Come tell us, your perspective on this. And that invitation isn't always there. That's not always a reality of how it's going to be. I would love for it to be. And I always try to remind leaders to extend that invitation. But the reality is that sometimes it's just not there. But a lack of an invitation is not the same thing as a lack of openness. And I hope you will really hear me. I'm going to say it again. A lack of an invitation is not the same thing as a lack of openness. So your perspective might be more welcome than you realize. So if you are in a situation where it's not just that you're feeling unwelcome, there's actually been a situation of harassment or a situation where you have literally been told, no, thank you, we don't have room for your perspective. I mean, in that sense, what are you doing at this company? Really ask yourself that. It sounds like you might need a come to Jesus moment of, what am I doing here? Why am I staying here? And I would love to hear from you, either if you're the person that submitted that question or if you're someone that just relates with it. Why do you stay alongside leaders that just don't collaborate well? And if there is an answer to that, and you're willing to put it in the comments on this video, I'd love to continue having more of a dialogue about this. Okay, next question. How do you lead? I do want to say one more thing though, because you might be telling yourself, oh, I'm waiting. There's a season of change. We're just going through a rough patch. Because I do hear this quite often from people when we're really getting into why do you stay in a dysfunctional environment? And they're like, it's just a rough patch. And my thing is, okay, but if you're telling yourself it's just because we're under new ownership, we just got acquired, we're just going through a season of, really, really growing really fast, or it's just this new client, there is always going to be another change like that. What these leaders are showing you is how they operate during change. This is the best they can do. Assume that. Assume that what's happening right now is how they handle change. This is how they communicate. This is how they delegate. This is how they confront. This is how they collaborate. This is how they are. They're showing you right now. So maybe there are moments that they have clarity and inspiration on how to do it better. I believe that the universe is whispering in everyone's ear. Not everyone is listening, but that doesn't mean they can't. But the thing is, ask yourself if this is enough for you. Do you like who you are while you're waiting for this change to happen? Do you like how you're talking to your significant other? Do you like how you're treating your kids? Do you like what you think about on your way to and from work? Do you like who you are while you're waiting for this change to happen so that you can get to when it's better? If not, you got to get out of there. You just got to get out of there. And if you're hoping that, maybe there really will be light at the end of the tunnel, I'm telling you, make a plan for how you will handle those conversations immediately when you get to that clearing. How will you know when you've gotten to the light at the end of the tunnel? And what will you do when you get there? Have a plan for those things, friend. Because otherwise, you are going to keep treading water and you're either going to drown or you're going to become one more person at this company that's participating in other people just being like, blech, who cares about this? Why do I come here? So think about that. Okay, now we're ready for the next question. How do you lead or manage those who have poor emotional intelligence? I love this question. I think it's a super honest question. And in gathering my thoughts on it ahead of time, I came across a Cornel West quote that I absolutely love. It goes like this. You can't lead the people if you don't love the people. You can't save the people if you can't serve the people. Now, if Cornel West and I could sit down and talk, I think I would have some questions about the word save, because I don't know if I am super on board with that, but I am super on board with the spirit of this quote, this idea of loving the people as a way of leading them. So my question is, love looks like choosing curiosity over judgment, right? Love looks like patience when we do things differently. Love looks like deciding to get to know someone as a whole person beyond those undesirable behaviors that indicated to you that this person has low emotional intelligence. So that's one thing. I think that it's really important as leaders to embrace the whole of who people are. And there are certainly ways that you can coach someone to behave in a way that serves your clients better and serves your purposes better. And perhaps, there's just a need to learn what is the lingua franca here. If they're communicating so differently, or behaving so differently, where is the common ground that we can get on board with so that they can receive the feedback, so that they can receive the coaching. And I really encourage you, if you're in a situation where you're like, we are just not operating out of the same playbook, I really encourage you, especially if you are an empathetic leader or you are a leader that spends a lot of time thinking about a culture-driven company, I really encourage you not to fall prey to the temptation of talking over people to prove that you're smarter, or talking over people to prove that you've read a lot of books about this. Speak to them in a way that they can understand you, okay? Second question I would have about this is there a chance that what you are experiencing is somebody whose brain is running on a different operating system? So if you follow me on social media, you know that I've been writing a little bit more lately and talking a little bit more lately about neurodiversity. And I've posted a couple of articles here on LinkedIn about this very topic, and I'll link to those in the comments on this video, which is turning out to be a long one. Okay, so those are some thoughts I have about leading and managing people who have quote unquote poor emotional intelligence. Okay, next question. How do you shape and motivate team members you inherit from previous leadership? So thank you so much. The person who submitted this is a leader at a huge company in Orlando, and I won't say his name because I didn't ask for permission to do that. I didn't think of that on the survey, and it seems uncool to do that, so I won't. But I really appreciate this question a whole lot. So here's the thing. If you come in to a role of leadership and you inherit a whole team of people and you're feeling like, we are not connecting, the reason I say not connecting is that when you're talking about motivation comes from being tapped into the why, being collectively tapped into the why. And so if what you're noticing is, a lack of motivation, what's happening is that either they or you are not tapped into the why. So what might have happened is that they are grieving that this other leader isn't here anymore, or they're really uncertain about what this change means. Or maybe what's happening is that they're ready, they're excited, you have no idea. Maybe the outgoing leader is someone that they are taking a breath and they're like, the start of something new, yay. And they're watching you to be like, what are you going to do to help solve these problems that we've been struggling with, right? So maybe that's where they're at, and the energy that you're perceiving isn't about what you think it's about. Maybe what's happening is that you are tapped into an energy of proving, and you really want to prove that you can do it. You want to prove that you can be, whatever to them. And so you're tapped into proving instead of being tapped into the why. So what I would encourage you to do, if you inherit a team of people from someone else and you're struggling with motivation, tap back into the why. Figure out what this is pointing to. In improv, we believe everything is a gift. Everything that happens in the scene, even if it's not a gift you would have chosen, it is pointing you in the direction of where building can happen. I promise you, there is nothing that has to be a deal breaker. Not anything has to be a deal breaker. It is pointing at a conversation, uncomfortable as that conversation may be, that will help you get where you need to be with your scene partner, okay? So if you inherit these people who came from a previous leader and you're struggling with motivation, that would be my advice. Tap into the why. If we're talking about shaping, that word shaping to me is about coaching, effective coaching. And, really effective coaching is about finding out what people care about and removing the obstacles to help them perform at the caliber of their potential. So servant leadership, you're hearing me talk a lot about that. There's a ton of overlap between the work that I do and the spirit of servant leadership. I've been finding that more and more the longer I do this, and I really love that. So when we're talking about coaching, really what we need to do if you want to effectively coach is establish authority instead of power. So I urge you, in any opportunity you can, to build authority instead of doubling down on power, which is do this so you don't get fired. That's what's going to help you get to a place where people can really receive the feedback that you're giving them. Also, there may be some reckoning that needs to happen in the form of direct confrontation. And so what I'm going to do, because confrontation, by the way, I didn't choose any of the questions that were specifically about that because it felt a little on the nose based on the quantity of videos that I've put out about difficult feedback and confrontation. But if you're new to my work, please go through my articles. I have a ton of articles about giving difficult feedback, but I will go ahead and link to a download I have that's called Best Practices for Offering Difficult Feedback. And I think that what might need to happen is just a direct confrontation. What's going on here? Get curious instead of judgmental. That is the number one advice of mindful improv. Choose curiosity instead of judgment wherever you can. But sometimes just clearing the air, making time and space to get real with someone one-on-one and just be like, what's going on here? I believe it can get better and I want it to. Tell me your perspective on what's happening here. And then listen. That's the important thing. Say your piece and then listen. Okay, last question is from a woman who says she's just getting started. It seemed like with a project from some of her other survey responses. And she's struggling with second guessing herself. So one moment here. Okay, so this is about alignment. So if you've heard me talk in the past, you know how valuable alignment is. So this alignment is having equal parts, equal faith in yourself, your scene partners, and the agile collaborative process. So this process of listening, building, listening, building, listening, building, that's what improv is. That is what improv is. You don't bring everything. You don't need to know 11 steps down the road what's going to happen. We call that building a cathedral or bringing a cathedral. When you have this whole finished thing and you just set it on top of everyone else and you're like, boom, deal with that. That's not what we're about in improv. You bring one brick and then you listen and your scene partners bring something and you build whatever it's going to be together. And I really encourage you to think about this, by the way, in terms of your clients get to bring a brick too. You don't want to build this product that nobody needs or wants, right? So you build brick by brick. Excuse me. So when you are getting started and you're struggling with second guessing yourself, first of all, second guessing yourself is usually pointing at an opportunity for forgiveness. So do you need to forgive yourself for failing in the past? Do you need to forgive yourself for getting it wrong and not handling a situation in a way that really represents who you are and your values of being an empathetic leader? What is it about? The first step is ask yourself, why am I second guessing myself? What is it? Am I improving energy? And I need to just remember that I am courageous, capable, willing, and worthy. That is one of my favorite mantras, and I say it often. What is that pointing at? It is pointing at something because everything is a gift, and it's a gift of direction, So what is it pointing at? Get back into alignment on that tripod. I call it the trust tripod. You need trust in those three things, and then you just cannot break it, and your job is not to figure out how to handle everything perfectly. Your job is to plan, how can I stay in alignment consistently? Because when you are in alignment, you will have the words that you need. You will have the words that you need when you're in alignment, and you're not worried about proving stuff to people. You're just worried about really doing what you're on this planet to do, really solving problems and serving the people around you, and living in your ikigai, if you remember that from several videos ago. Okay, so the second thing about this question is her words getting started. So I want to commend her, first of all, on the fact that she's getting started, because what I've heard from several of my clients at kind of the start of this year is their big vision for growth in 2020 and their commitment. Some of them have told me their commitment to double their company this year, which is amazing. But the thing is that while you're doing that growth, that rapid growth, boy, I mean, it's just harder to communicate, isn't it? It's just harder to stay in alignment with who you really are as a leader and as a company. And this idea of getting started really resonated with me, and I felt like I heard bits of this said different ways from a lot of you who, are waiting for the right time. You're waiting for the right time. You're waiting to get other people on board. Those are words I heard a lot, getting other people on board. And what I want to say to you is that in a lot of ways, that's a myth. It's a myth that what happens is you get other people on board and then you do this culture initiative, or then you do this thing that's about who you really are. If you as a leader know there's a thing that needs to happen in order for us to grow in alignment with our cultural identity, in order for us to grow in alignment with our values of being a diverse and inclusive company, of being a company that is a safe place emotionally for our employees, of being a culture-driven company that values growing, while while paying close attention to the ideas and the input of our people, you got to stop telling yourself that a day is coming when everyone will be on the same page and everyone will have time on their calendar, and you just got to do something. And the truth is that there are a lot of things that one person, one committed leader can do that have really, really transformative and deeply impactful, results and output for the rest of your team, the rest of your company. There are a lot of things like that one person can do. And the point here is that getting started and just deciding you're going to implement something, even if it's just something for yourself, that is so commendable. That is so incredibly commendable. And so I applaud you for your efforts of just putting yourself out there and taking the risk of maybe getting it wrong, maybe failing, but maybe having a really, really, really huge impact on the trajectory of your company. So that's amazing. Okay, well, I really appreciate all of you who took some time to answer these questions. There's one final question that I'll answer in just a second about mindfulness. But first, I want to let you know that in a couple of days, I'm going to put information out there about a new program that's designed to meet that need that I was just talking about. When you're like deciding that as a leader, you're not going to keep waiting for everyone else, and you're like, I need to implement some things. I need to put some things in place to make sure we are growing in alignment with our values, because I don't want to be a part of a company that is growing and then in the midst of that growth, I lose sight of who I am as a leader. That's a really good way to have all of your joy sucked out of you, and I don't want that. So I have a program coming up. I'll announce it in a couple of days. That is for leaders like you who are empathetic leaders and who are really committed to growing while staying in alignment with your vision for culture, and really interested in taking some ownership of this and finding out some ways that you can implement without getting everyone to allocate a budget and all this stuff. Simple things that are so deeply impactful for your own freedom, growth, and joy, but also for connecting more deeply with your team and helping them connect with each other in a way that gets better results and better collaboration. So more on that in a couple of days. But lastly, there was a really interesting question about selling mindfulness to other people at the company. And I thought this was interesting. So how it was worded was, how do you get people to respect people who believe in mindfulness if they really disagree? So this made me think, just reading this question, I read it several times and thought, there might be a fundamental misunderstanding of what mindfulness is. So mindfulness does not have to be something that happens alongside gongs and chanting and in a salt cave and some of the things that get associated with mindfulness or meditation. By the way, I love me a good salt cave. But mindfulness is just simply being present in this moment with curiosity instead of judgment. That's what mindfulness is, being aware of what's happening in this moment and being fully present. So as leaders, that is so critical. It is so critical to be able to be present and really hearing, because right now in this moment is your opportunity to connect with your client, to connect with your investor, to connect with your partner, to connect with your employee, and really hear what they're saying. Really good ideas, really transformative, critical moments that are, company defining can happen just like that, and you'll miss it if you have not practiced the ability of being present and listening. By the way, not being present in the moment is a really good way to actively disengage the people around you, okay? So mindfulness is just the ability to be present in this moment. And there are different mindfulness practices. There are different exercises that will help you build that skill. And some of them include meditation. Some of them include mantras. Some of them include salt caves. But that is not what they have to be. And there are some mindfulness activities that are much more approachable than you may realize. So if you're struggling to get people on board, so to speak, with mindfulness, my thought might be that the issue is more about the wrapping paper than about the gift. So maybe think about, addressing the needs of your team, because they desperately need mindful leaders. Your team desperately needs mindful leaders, whether or not they know how to ask for that, okay? So maybe just presenting it in a way that will be in alignment with what they are, with the language that they're speaking. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much for the questions that you ask. It's not too late to submit a question. I'm still going to be reading responses, and I'm just so enjoying reading them and responding to them. So thank you again. The link to the survey will be in the comments alongside the download I promised. And thank you all, lastly, for your efforts of being empathetic leaders. It is just a joy to connect with leaders who care so deeply about their teams and who care so deeply about making the world a better place by building companies that are better places. Okay? Thank you so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.